Dot nation about to be erased, says Maazi Oluchi Ibe. The above is the type of heading that gets my listeners and readers mad. Sincerely speaking, I have said it severally. I do not write to be praised. As my great Igbo forebears would have said, Anagima abazi ego kam date ego. One self-acclaimed Biafran agitators, some self-styled freedom fighters, and shockingly, Igbo elites look at the mass of Igbo population when they look at the vastness of Igbo megacities of Aba, Onitsha, Harcourt, Nnewi, Enugu, and so on. They wonder at the temerity of the Fulani gambit to take over their lands. In fact, they consider it the height of 21st century folly, but they are completely wrong, and the Fulani right. Almost a decade ago, I advised a so-called Igbo intelligentsia group that Fulani will overrun Igbo land, and of course, thinking how great Igbo are, they simply shook their heads and thought Oluchi Ibe was crazy. I must be crazy to think the kind of thoughts I do. That's by the way, because whatever I think, or what others think of my thoughts, does not take away the facts. The facts today of the Igbo world is that it is a dot nation, pure and simple. No one is in a better position to describe Igbo so more than the evil-minded Buhari, one of the major architects of doctrinizing Igbo land. As Igbo boasts, including boasting of a new mythical free access to the seas, those who plotted Igbo gerrymandering seat over their kunu and laugh. Sure, Igbos have rediscovered shorter sea routes to the Atlantic, but even if 1 nautical mile, the Fulani will make sure that 1 mile that has passed through their south-south is blocked, knowing that a Peter Obi will broker such deals today. Stopping him at all costs is what drives the post-2023 election saga. Not to derail, the past and the present Igbo generations have watched the great Igbo nation shrunken from our Edo boundaries in the west, up northwest to Uromi, northeast to Kogi and Benue, and you know the rest of the boundaries down the coast. Today, this vast land that hailed its first white visitors and was dreaded by their preclinical neighbors have been shrunken to what? Your guess is as good as mine. Much more than the gerrymandering is the programmed economic squeeze the dot has been put under since 1970. Because we love painting words, we call it marginalization to soften the blow, but not the impact. Carefully choreographed was the use of deadly economic pinchers and heavy metal vices to squeeze the already compressed nation. Why this was so is because of the basic common sense. But then, we have had 2 Igbo generations that lacked this basic common sense, and so can no longer see beyond their stomachs. While Biafran agitators and Igbo allies wonder how the Fulani would train their guns over Igbo land and conquer it, Fulani knew better. From the bloody nose they and the British got in the hands of the Igbo in the Biafran War of Independence, they knew taking over Igbo land and Igbo would be true asymmetric warfare. This will not be the first time they are applying the same in their West African quest for domination. Now, let's forget these long narratives and do a practical exercise, and I will need your help. Close your eyes. Look deeply with your mind eyes back into your grandfather's compound as you remember it in decades ago. Calculate how many great adults, men and women you remember there. Now ask yourself, how many of such people besides the dead are still in your grandfather's compound today? Possibly only 1 man and a few old women are remaining physically there. I am asking you, and the men remaining may possibly not be the best your stock can boast of, and that is why they are there. Translate your findings in your own grandfather's house across Igbo land. Ask your friends, what do you get? The same answer. The same situation in your compound where everyone has left except those incapable, weak and unable, yet they harbor dreams of living. Next questions. Do you see yourself ever going back home? When last did you spend one solid month back in your father's compound? Will you ever? If your situation is the way it is, what about your children? You should ask after your grandchildren. What will they be allowed back home as the Fulani and their Yoruba cohorts apply more squeeze? Every human being in our homeland dreams of running away. Idiots will come to this world and blame Biafran agitators without having the common sense of asking what caused the agitation. The calculated squeezing to death of the dot was aimed at producing the present riotous situation we have there today, doubling the problems and hastening Igbo flight from their homeland, leading to the goal of Igbo total loss of control. Not to bore you so much, bottom line is this: in the next 30 years, to be very generous, everyone who still lives in Igbo land will bail out into diaspora. Diaspora here means without outside Igbo land. And once out, it is only your dead body that will likely make the journey back home for the lucky ones. That being said, Igbo land will still have masses of human beings, but they will only be hooked on buying and selling for those who can, like the Hausa, with a vast majority turning into almajiris like the Hausa. Ultimate survivor would then depend on handouts and fallouts from the Fulani table. The vast weakened masses aim will only be survivor through any and every means. The better the psychopaths to the Fulani, the better they try to outdo the urges. Roachas, Uzodimas, the better for them and the worse the calamity. This is how your land will be taken over and not what you have been thinking. For example, a full Fulani battalion with artillery and war plans properly arranged in trenches facing your combatants, as happened between 1967 to 1970. Knowing this and knowing that Igbo land is lost will re-inform you of the urgency of now. Before you respond, please tell me how many people are living in your father's compound, and tell me that they are all planning to stay and not dreaming of how to run away or send their children away. When the best finish migrating in about 30 years, you will be shocked how years fly. Igbo land as we know it will become history. Again, look at the Hausa. I am Mazi Oluchi Igbo. I do not come in peace. He continued and says, Biafra, a lesson from Ogoni land. The Ogoni people are about 1.5 million and spread over 4 local government councils in Rivers State, Nigeria, Biafra land. When Ken Sarowiwa started Mosop, he moved around his people and got their commitment. He and his team codified that commitment by getting every Ogoni alive to make a financial commitment of a token. They all did, including those in the 90s. They did all this before they stepped out. When a section of the Ogoni leaders turned coat, the entire Ogoni descended on them in what became an unfortunate bloodbath. But this signaled to the world that something serious and deadly was afoot. The Ogoni, despite their small population, stuck to their gun on total control of their land and its resources. They endured the unendurable. Today, this tiny group has stopped the almighty Shell BP in their tracks. The first indigenous people in all history to do so. They stopped the mighty federal government of Nigeria. In fact, it is said, and rightly and rightly so, that they stopped the foursome Seven Sisters, that is, the 7 international conglomerates that control world resources. Today, every oil well in Ogoni land is under lock and has been under lock since the Ogoni launched their rebellion against Nigeria over 20 years ago. In all their struggles, they did not make noise. They did not dominate the orthodox or social media. They did not even launch an armed group. So, how did such a tiny group of people achieve such a great result? And what does and should it teach the over confused 50 million Biafrans? Herein lies the key to any progress in the struggle. For Biafran government in exile, a detailed tour and discussion across Biafra land, like in the Ogoni case, was embarked upon. It yielded a great success, leading to their putting signature on what became the Biafran Charter. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister of the Biafran Republic government in exile, Mazi Simon Ekpa, who has been working steadfastly and tirelessly day and night with other BRGIE officials to unite Biafrans from the hinterland to the coastal region, including Ogoni land, has always reassured hope for the restoration of the dignities of our people by always making positive moves to make Ndi Igbo and Biafrans in general realize the danger of abandoning the Biafran cause and continuing to industrialize the diaspora while abandoning the Igbo land, the land of the rising sun. He said that every Igbo man must begin to think home by bringing industries and companies back to the homeland, to industrialize and create job opportunities in our land, for our land not to be deserted anymore. He also took to his Twitter handle to announce that the White House has acknowledged the armed conflict and humanitarian crisis in Nigeria, and the State Department has urged travelers to reconsider travel to Nigeria due to crime, terrorism, civil unrest, and kidnapping. Many congressmen has also joined the petition urging the US to designate Nigeria for Temporary Protected Status (TPS). He maintained that his stand and that of BRGIE is on Biafran restoration and Nigeria dissolution as the only solution to all the crises, terrorism, and so on that is ravaging Nigeria. He said, when we petitioned EU, UN, ICC, we demanded that the deportation of Biafrans to Nigeria should stop as a result of the ongoing arms conflict, state-sponsored terrorism, and ethnic cleansing of Biafrans and other indigenous people within Nigeria. Today, US Congress is requesting the US government to protect Nigerian nationals currently in the United States by designating Nigeria for Temporary Protected Status (TPS). If you are a Yoruba or other ethnic nationals from Nigeria seeking asylum in the US, you must be grateful to the Biafran Republic government in exile. We have done you a favor, and this is just the beginning, he concluded. Thank you, comrade, the great Prime Minister. Our prayers will continue to be with you. Finally, we will be free. Kudos to the Biafran Republic government in exile. #Dotland Media.